Hi guys, today I want to talk about Conjunctio and the integration of opposites, which is very important. So when I was young, I saw a movie called The Dark Crystal. If you've never seen it, do yourself a favor. Netflix actually has a prequel series as well, which is good, but the original movie is amazing. And in this, they have the Skeksis, and they're the baddies, and then they have the Mystics, which are the goodies. And as you would expect with a normal movie, you would think the light would win, the bad people would be overthrown. But at the end of this movie, the two of these merge. So the Skeksis and the Mystics merge, and then they actually transcend and become a higher species that was split into two when the crystal was split. And as a child, I was about 7 or 8 when I saw this. It profoundly touched me because I realized that integration was far more healing than just winning, like overcoming, right? And due to the fact that we are in a dualistic universe, we tend to put post-its on things, words like narcissist or avoidant, and I mean, all of those things help us, right? But in our relationships, we have to remember that it is about integration. Now, this doesn't mean that we shouldn't have boundaries. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't walk away if something is really toxic. But the problem is if we make the other wrong and we make ourselves right, and we're angry at the other, right, because they are bad and we are good, we are actually judging a part within ourselves. And that is why we can't get over these relationships, because firstly, the deep unconscious or subconscious mind knows that we are one. So you are judging yourself. Secondly, judgment and unforgiveness actually links you to a person. When there is a situation and it's really toxic and you can't move away from it, it's almost like when you're driving past a car crash and somebody says, don't look at that, and you can't help yourself. You have to look at it, right? And then you think, what's wrong with me? So what happens here is the brain all of a sudden has to carry two opposite truths. So let's take this example. The one truth could be that I really love this person and they have amazing aspects. The other truth is that they're toxic, right? They're toxic and therefore I have to let them go. This is not working. The problem here is we then usually choose the one and we go, cool, they're toxic, we hate them, now we're going to leave them, and from now on we're going to tell everyone, whew, I survived, what a horrible person, right? But it feels horrible. And the reason it feels horrible is we haven't integrated the opposites. The only way you can really move on from a relationship or a toxic experience is with forgiveness. Now, once again, forgiveness does not mean that you are going to allow the person to continue to do what they are doing. Forgiveness means that you can sit with your nervous system in those opposites, because when we go into cognitive dissonance, the brain wants to overanalyze, and this is when we stay up at night, right? The brain can't switch off because this is true, but this is true, but this is true, but this is true, and now I have to choose a side, right? The truth is in the integration of the opposites. And this also made me think of Agent Smith in The Matrix. So I take it that most of you have seen The Matrix. If you haven't, you won't understand this part. Neo obviously is the one in the Matrix, and he's waking up from the simulation and starting to control it because he knows it's an illusion. And then there is Agent Smith, who is a sentient program that's a sentinel that protects the Matrix. Now, there is a theory that Agent Smith was actually the previous Neo, before the previous Neo Matrix got reset. And that is why he hates the Matrix, right? And he wants to escape it, but he can't remember. Now, if we look at incarnations, right? We can't understand why people are doing what they are doing. We can't know what their previous lives have been like. We can't know what this life has been like. We can't know what their trauma is and why they reacted to it the way that they did. From our perspective, we can go, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But putting these post-its on somebody going, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, actually is just a plaster that we're putting on so that we don't feel the truth, which is that they are part of us and that we love them, right? And then we have to judge and shame and shun in order to move on. And we've been taught that if you forgive somebody, you won't be able to move on. And yes, this is true, because highly compassionate people and empaths tend to end up with people who went the other route, right? So highly compassionate people became more empathic and pleasers due to trauma, whilst more narcissistic, character disordered individuals become less empathic due to trauma, right? But when you look at the Matrix, the interesting thing is when what's his name? When Morpheus tells Neo about the agents, and he said, you know, nobody has ever fought an agent. When you see one, you run, but when I'm done with you, you will be able to fight an agent. Then Neo says, what are you telling me, that I will be able to dodge bullets? And then Morpheus says, well, what I'm telling you is you won't have to. The interesting thing here is that Neo does dodge bullets at some point, right? And this is what we do in relationships, dodging bullets, using our brain to be able to be authentic, even in situations where that is not accepted. And this is a good thing, right? This is part of nervous system growth and self-expression. But at the end of the day, in the Matrix 1, Neo actually jumps after he dies. Very important. After he dies, he wakes up and he jumps into Agent Smith, right? And then that goes into the Matrix code. And also in the third Matrix, he allows Agent Smith to assimilate him. Now, this is called Conjunctio in Jungian theory, and it is the alchemy of the opposites, because if we realize that deep within ourselves we are all one, we realize that people who come into our lives do not only mirror our lack of boundaries or our traumas, right? They also mirror deeply suppressed shadow aspects of the self. We would not be a match to a person if that were not the truth. And this is what creates cognitive dissonance. And then from the outside, you can go to a therapist or you can read self-help, and everyone's telling you, do the right thing, leave, choose yourself, move on, right? And yes, all of this is true. But again, it's a divine dichotomy. Because at a deeper level, if you cannot love the part of yourself that is a match to that person, you will stay stuck energetically, right? So what's that thing? What you resist persists. What you look at, what you really look at, disappears. It's Neil Donald Walsh that said the second part. So this made me also think of a Zen koan, right? Many times when we are in a double mind, in other words, two things are true and we are confused and the brain is going both ways, we're looking for the answer, right? And the way that we integrate that is by going to a higher perspective where both are true. So if you look at the Matrix, right, when Neo is trying to bend the spoon, I'll get to the koan now. I think it's koan. When Neo is trying to bend the spoon, the little kid that bends spoons tells him, do not try to bend the spoon. Rather realize that there is no spoon. It is yourself that bends, right? Now, this is a very deep truth. So the koan is, there is a glass bottle and there is a duck. And the duck is growing in the glass bottle. And the duck is too big and it will die because the glass bottle is not big enough anymore to accommodate the duck, right? Somebody has been feeding this duck. It's like a bonsai duck. Horrible, horrible practice. And the question is, how do you get the duck out of the bottle without breaking the bottle and without killing the duck. And then the initiates would think about this and think about this and think about this and think about this. And eventually, the answer, right, is there is no bottle, there is no duck. It's just a story. It's just a story, right? And this is the thing that happens to us in real life as well. We get so caught up in the story, and then we want to fix the story, the right, the wrong. But from a higher perspective, we can drop it. And we can drop it if we realize that it's all us, showing us to us. If we can forgive it in us. But first, before we can do that, we really have to feel it deeply. We spiritually bypass, right? So we go, oh no, this doesn't bother me. This is not an issue. I'm so over this, right? Or we go into anger. Oh, that is such a bad person. I'm a good person. Screw that person. But once you do that, you feel in your body, right? It's like anger, frustration, sadness. And that is like a little, Byron Katie actually said that, right? This is like a little temple bell. That feeling that you're getting is a little temple bell telling you that you are off. Something within you is off. Because when clarity arrives, peace arrives. When clarity arrives, love arrives. You can love somebody and still have boundaries. You can love somebody and still walk away. You can forgive somebody and still not be with them. And you can do this when you realize you brought this to yourself. This is you in a different incarnation. Like Agent Smith dealt with the Matrix in his way. If you then believe that he was the previous Neo, and now he's so asleep that he's trying to destroy it. That's why he hates the Matrix, right? And he wants to escape it. And then Neo, so if you realize that, right, you realize that people are just programmed and they're functioning from their level of understanding, and you can feel compassion towards them, like Christ said on the cross, forgive them because they know not what they do. And this is how we then alchemize and still have compassion, because yes, empaths have been catnip for narcs, right? Can still have compassion and discernment and see it and drop it. I hope that helps, guys.